Why do so many individuals appear to decline after the age of 80, even among those who were thriving, both mentally and physically, just a short time prior? The common belief is that what occurs beyond 80 is solely determined by genetics or chance. However, this is a misconception. This discussion will examine 5 little-known and rarely addressed factors that often explain why numerous older adults find it difficult to maintain health and longevity past 80 years of age. These are not the usual well-publicized risks, such as diet, smoking, or exercise, but rather more nuanced and subtle factors which frequently pass unnoticed, even in those who have adhered to the standard advice. The encouraging news is that once these factors are understood, they can be addressed. If you have ever pondered the true obstacles to longevity after 80 and how they might be prevented, it is advisable to pay close attention, as these 5 unexpected causes may enable you to reshape how you age before it is too late. Let us proceed to the first factor, the loss of microsocial engagement. One of the most commonly overlooked reasons why many elderly individuals do not thrive past 80 is the gradual disappearance of what specialists refer to as microsocial engagement. This does not pertain to deep friendships or family occasions, which are of course significant, but to the small, seemingly insignificant daily interactions previously taken for granted. Consider, for instance, the exchange of pleasantries with the postman, the brief jest shared with a cashier, or simply acknowledging a neighbor during a walk. These brief exchanges are far more than mere pleasantries. They play a vital regulatory role for the nervous system, reinforce a sense of belonging, and keep the brain's social circuitry active and sharp. Yet, after 80, many older individuals cease venturing out, opting instead to have goods delivered or delegating errands to family members. They stop chatting with strangers due to diminished hearing, or avoid going outdoors owing to unsteady knees or discomfort with the weather. As these modest social contacts dissipate, so does a measure of vitality. Most individuals are not even aware of this gradual withdrawal, often mischaracterizing it as simply decluttering their lives. In reality, what is being eliminated are the low-level social interactions which sustain brain functionality, elevate mood, and transmit the critical message that the individual still belongs to the everyday world. It need not be intricate. There are those well into their 80s who remain intellectually vibrant simply by walking to the same cafe each morning, greeting the same employees, and acknowledging familiar faces en route. That mere 5 minutes of human connection gives both structure and meaning to the day. The biological cost, when these contacts vanish, is considerable. The brain interprets loneliness, including subtle forms, as stress. This leads to altered hormone levels, increased inflammation, a weakened immune response, and, most crucially, a reduction in the brain's networks responsible for memory, attention, and emotional regulation. In essence, it accelerates the feeling of aging. If you have found yourself speaking less with others, forsaking casual errands, or becoming less visible in the community, it is vital to reverse this trend. These fleeting interactions, however minor, reinforce to both mind and body that you continue to matter, delivering one of the most powerful agents for prolonging life, both in duration and spirit. Secondly, consider the impact of overcautious inactivity. Another unspoken reason many do not advance comfortably beyond 80 is not frailty itself, but the gradual default to excessive caution. This frequently starts with the best intentions, perhaps a minor fall or a momentary loss of balance, results in a conscious decision to curtail certain activities. One becomes increasingly sedentary, fewer walks, avoidance of climbing steps or reaching for low shelves, longer hours sitting. Well-meaning relatives often encourage such caution, but the consequence is a stilled existence. What is rarely discussed is this: when regular movement ceases, not only muscle strength, but also coordination, balance, and intrinsic stability begin to deteriorate. The body is less akin to a machine needing rest and more like a garden requiring regular cultivation. When movement becomes scarce, there is an inevitable weakening. The decline is often first evident in the core muscles, vital for standing, walking, lifting, and even rising from a chair. These muscles can significantly atrophy within weeks of inactivity, setting off a vicious circle in which balance is further compromised at it. A man by the name of Walter, aged 82, once stopped his daily walks following a fall. Within 6 months, he had lost considerable muscle mass and was markedly weaker. This, despite having been physically capable beforehand. He did not stop walking because he was weak. Rather, his weakness arose because he had stopped walking. It is important not to disregard genuine risks. Using handrails, suitable footwear, and other practical safeguards are sensible. However, there is a crucial distinction between deliberate risk management and surrendering to fear, which can lead to the body forgetting how to move altogether. If you notice your reduction in activity is fear-based, rather than dictated by actual limitation, it is worth reflection. Perpetuating movement, albeit with care and deliberation, enables the body's systems to remain engaged, the mind alert, and the sense of purpose intact. Turning to the third factor, disrupted sleep cycles caused by irregular light exposure. The human body possesses an internal clock governing mood, metabolism, immunity, and neurological repair. This circadian rhythm grows especially sensitive post-80, yet one of its most common disruptors is irregular exposure to light, particularly insufficient daylight and excessive artificial light at night. Without conscious awareness, habits may form, such as more frequent napping during the day, less time spent outdoors, or increased screen use in the evening. Individually benign, collectively, these changes disrupt cues necessary for alertness and sleep. Natural morning light signals the brain to become awake and energized, while nighttime darkness promotes the production of melatonin, essential for restorative sleep. Insufficient exposure to daylight, combined with unwisely bright evenings, muddles these internal signals, resulting in poor sleep, daytime lethargy, cognitive fuzziness, and overall immune decline. Furthermore, the body's natural ability to produce vitamin D is greatly diminished after 80, increasing the importance of regular outdoor exposure for maintaining healthy bones, muscles, and immune defenses. The experience of a woman named Helen, aged 84, is illustrative. On her doctor's advice, she spent 20 minutes each morning by a window and ceased screen use an hour prior to bed. Within 2 weeks, her sleep, mood, and memory had all improved markedly, underlining the restorative power of light. Therefore, if much of your time is spent indoors, especially with limited exposure to daylight, and an abundance of artificial light in the evenings, it is prudent to seek out morning sunlight and allow darkness to fall naturally at the end of the day. These adjustments are not mere comforts, but are essential for keeping the body's system synchronized, stave off disarray, and maintain health and vibrancy even at an advanced age. Fourthly, emotional suppression resulting from loss and isolation presents another insidious factor. By their 80s, most individuals have endured profound losses: spouses, siblings, friends, occasionally even children. While society often offers formal condolences, it rarely acknowledges the true cumulative impact of such losses. Not only psychologically, but also physically. What frequently occurs is not just the feeling of sorrow, but the habitual suppression of emotion, restraining grief, donning a stoic facade, or believing that by now one should be accustomed to loss. Yet, unexpressed grief is not forgotten by the body. It is internalized, manifesting over time in immune suppression, digestive issues, poor sleep, altered hormones, and persistent nervous tension. The outward appearance may be of composure, but manifestations of emotional weight often present as diminished vitality, shallow breathing, and a loss of spirit. Addressing and expressing grief, whether through trusted confidants, journaling, spiritual reflection, or therapeutic support, may prevent such emotional burdens from manifesting as physical decline. The longevity of those who live well beyond 80 is frequently underpinned by their ability to ventilate emotions, permitting their hearts and bodies to heal. The fifth and final factor is the gradual loss of daily purpose, perhaps the most subtle. This manifests not in the loss of life's grand meaning, but in the erosion of simple routines and responsibilities, those small obligations that bring shape and motivation to each day. Purpose might be as modest as watering plants, feeding a cat, writing a letter, or performing small acts of kindness. As these rituals fall away, whether from cancelled gatherings, reduced family visits, or relinquished volunteering, days begin to blur, and with it, both motivation and the body's regulatory systems. A woman named Ruth, age 8, for example, thrived not due to wealth, flawless health, or a vast family, but because she maintained meaningful routines, writing postcards, making soup for charity, and engaging with local children. Such activities provided her days with rhythm and continuity, fueling both joy and resilience. The body remains engaged when it senses its own relevance. Purpose, no matter how small, invigorates the entire system. Thus, those who continue living well past 80 generally anchor their lives with simple but consistent responsibilities: a garden, a pet, a morning prayer, or regular correspondence. If you are experiencing a sense of drift, or the days have lost their sense of purpose, it is a signal from your body seeking renewed structure and engagement, not something to ignore. Longevity is not simply about sustaining the heartbeat, but about retaining the desire to live, to connect, and to remain significant. In conclusion, most people do not experience a sharp decline after 80 due to one dramatic event. It is rarely a clear diagnosis or an acute incident. Instead, it is the gradual fading of habits, routines, and purpose that leads to diminished engagement with life. These changes are often so subtle that they go unnoticed until a familiar spark has dwindled. The reassuring reality is that just as these unwelcome shifts occur incrementally, so too can they be reversed. One outdoor walk, one brief exchange, one purposeful act at a time. Reflect on the 5 unexpected causes discussed here. Consider which surprised you, which seemed uncomfortably familiar, and most importantly, which you are willing to address, even in a modest way, starting immediately. Ultimately, you possess greater influence than you might believe, not to halt aging, but to transform your experience of it. By remaining alert to subtle changes, safeguarding your daily rhythms, protecting your sense of purpose, and allowing yourself to experience the full spectrum of emotions, you stand a far better chance of living beyond 80, not merely in years, but in fullness and spirit. Thank you for your attention today. You are invited to share in the comments one insight you have gained and how you intend to apply it to your life. Your reflections provide invaluable motivation and encouragement. If you found this discussion helpful, please consider sharing it further. Your support enables the continuation of informative and inspiring content.